Perfect. Cool. It's working. Amazing. Thank you guys so much for being here. Super grateful for our time together as always. I love webinars. I find that they're such a great educational way to just like pop in, get some knowledge. And the most important part of this time that we have together is not necessarily what you listen to, what you hear, but also how you apply it to your life and your experience so that you can use it as a tool to continue to expand your growth. So those of you that are on live, thank you for joining me in real time. And if you're watching this recording, I'm so glad you could join us and still make use of all this amazing information. I'm going to jump right in, you guys, because I only have 30 minutes and it's not always easy to be succinct. So I'm going to pop right in with you guys and share my slide deck. If you'd like to go side-by-side gallery mode so you can see everyone, you're totally welcome to. I'll encourage shares and you guys jumping in throughout this. Feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question. You can also add in the chat. That's kind of how we do our webinars, where you have access, free reign to really contribute in any way that you want. And so today we're going to talk about effective time management. I know this is such an important topic, and a lot of the work I do, which I'll explain in a moment, is bridging the worlds between, the spiritual world and kicking ass in three-dimensional reality and being a human. And I know that they're two completely different worlds. So one of them is a horizontal plane of connecting with like, how do I produce, succeed, establish myself, create accomplishments, feel good about my 3D reality of the world, let my material body feel safe and grounded in home and safety and security, and like play in the adult world. And then how do I also stay vertically connected, where I'm connected to my truth, my spirit, my listening, and everything in between. And where those things merge together is you. It's your decisions, it's your habits, it's your practices. It's how meaningful you live your life. It's how you show up to manage your time in a way that's either connected or disconnected, right? Present or absent, aware and mindful, or on autopilot and checked out. That's really what time management is about. It's like, are you aimlessly showing up and doing shit? Or are you showing up with intention, right? So about me, if you're watching this recording or if you're newer to me, I'm a coach, a yoga therapist, meditation teacher. I also speak at a lot of different events and community experiences. I do retreats, I do teacher trainings. Our community is just some incredible souls of like-minded people. And we work mind, body, soul. So while we have movement practices on our platform, we also talk a lot about meditation, personal development, breath work. It's kind of a community of growth-oriented direction. So we're all kind of on the same page with that. So it provides a really beautiful learning environment. I also work with companies to help bring more intentionalization into organizations through teams, through companies, through, highlighting values of companies and aligning people with where they are energetically so that dharmically, the things that we contribute our energy towards, our life force towards, are ideally a little bit more mindful and meaningful, right? Like we're not just showing up to 9 to 5. So that's what I like to create. We'll do a quick ground, the pause sign, because I know you're all in this call right now, also probably in the middle of your workday or whatever. And then you're like, oh, how do I actually hit pause? So that's what this moment is for. Go ahead and put your sitting bones on the ground or the couch or wherever you're sitting on. Sit up tall. And we'll just do 3 giant breaths together. But because that's all we have time for today, I want you to be super receptive. Take a breath in. Exhale, relax your shoulders. Take a breath in. Exhale, relax the sides of your eyes. Take a breath in. Now relax your core and your pelvic floor. Feel all of your internal organs just softening in your body. Coming into a space where you can be present and receive. And just allow whatever seeps in, whatever hits, to be the most important information that you walk with today. And when you feel ready, blink your eyes open, finding yourself back here. Such a big difference in such a small time. I want to remind you guys too, like use the chat, use it up as much as you want, contribute, ask questions. We're all here for it. So I'd love to tell you about my story with time management and kind of how I've navigated this. Of course, I think for all of us, it's a constant push and pull. It's like a love-hate of like, there's never enough time, and then there's too much time, and then I'm bored, and then I'm too engaged, and then I'm too overwhelmed. So My background before I started working with my own wellness brand many, many years ago is I worked with an NLP leader, and she specialized a lot in timeline therapy, timeline re-imprinting. So a lot of what I learned around the construct of time, the measurement of time, and how we perceive time in relation to our experience of reality, like our relatability, was through the work I did there. And the timeline therapy training that I did was a lot around moving back to root causes. So before, during, or after birth, previous lifetimes, this lifetime, where's the root of your shame? Where's the root of your guilt? Where's the root of your fear, your root of your anger? And we usually work with emotions such as kind of like, if you see a timeline, there's like little beads on the timeline for events. Those beads would be like how many times you felt anger and how stacked it was from the core of when it was. So, working that way, I'm going to teach you guys today a little bit about being in time versus through time based on my history, my experience there. I also think I spent a lot of time in my unconscious life feeling like I didn't have enough time. And then through running my own business, my own brand right now, like we have a really like lean team, lean and mean team, and Katie's on this call, so she knows how it goes. But being effective with my time to run this business is the most important thing, especially because I'm also a human. I don't show up as a leader and a teacher and I'm like, great, look at me. And my whole life is my business. I go home at the end of the night and I act like a lady. Like I go home and I get to separate myself from that identity. And if I didn't know how to manage my time, I wouldn't know how to turn off at the end of the day. So those of you that wake up thinking about work, go to sleep thinking about work, like that's where we got to create some boundaries. And that's why this concept is really important because again, it's just like money or energy or any type of energetic exchange. Time is just like that. So we'll define that as well. And I'd love to pause for one moment just to give you guys a chance if any of you have anything pressing or top of mind. When are the moments that you feel the most discord when thinking about the concept of time or managing your time effectively? So, for example, for me, um, I have to be really mindful that when my plate is stacked and someone asks me to do another thing, like when I feel overwhelmed, that usually a less desirable version than who I want to present comes out. Like I'll snap or I'll be like, no, I can't do that. Or I'll do the project, but do it half-assed just because I feel so much versus zooming out and trying to prioritize of like what needs to be the first thing and let me bring my best self forward. So for you, what are the moments when you feel discord? When you're like, when I think about time, it makes me contract versus expand. Feel free to unmute or use the chat.
I'd love to jump in on this one. Something
Yes.
that like immediately came to mind for me was the padding on either side of whatever it is that I'm committing to. So the time that it takes to get there, the time that it takes afterwards for me to like decompress and like transition. I
Mm,
forget that. I have like this amnesia around it that it's like, you don't have to, like you said, stack your day where it's like a marathon day going from one thing to the next, because then I'm going to end up behind like the whole day because I'm not taking into account like, bio breaks, eating, doing like other normal human things. Like, cause I
mm,
sometimes I have a tendency to build my schedule based on like the superhuman version of me. Like if I was operating at 100%, yeah, I technically could do all of these things in one day, but like that's banking on me being at 100% of the days and like
mhm.
not taking into account the wiggle room of like, you might not be feeling great, you might be on your period, you might be having a rough day, and you might not be able to get through all of these things that you've committed to.
Totally. I love that. And the idea of that is setting you up for success because you're like, I don't want to feel this way. So, like, this is why I choose this differently. Danny, I also love what you said in the chat. That brings forward as well, where you said more personal time, like not prioritizing self-care. I'm going to say this as a blanket thing for literally everything that we do right now. The impact is not near as hard as the bracing of it. So, what I want to say about that, and this is a straight from ceremony from one of our journeys, is that when the thing that we want to do is not the mountain is the prep work for it. So, like the prep work of loving yourself, the prep work of actually recognizing that you deserve that time is so much bigger than the logistics of scheduling it. Because anyone can schedule a sound bath in and a meditative, like we could find time in your calendar. We could consolidate. I'm sure we could do that. But do you actually choose that when the like thing goes off on your phone and you're like, no, I'd rather just veg out and do something else that makes me feel like Netflix and wine, and like we know, like, oh, I could have been taking a bath or whatever else it is. So the really it's more about getting there. Yeah. Shannon. Hmm.
There we go.
Yep.
So definitely, I'm ADHD. And that what happens in my personal space. I'm a professional nanny, so I can keep schedules and time like a pro.
Yeah.
And like I put in time for meltdowns and for transition. I schedule those in because I know my clients. Um, Myself though, in my home where my walls are down, getting out of that house as someone who has ADHD, I leave maybe 3 times. And it's all like, oh yeah, I need that. Oh yeah, I need that. So my own personal time is gone. Like I don't know how
Mm.
to, and I keep um, alarms to help me, but those will also get me really the anxiety
Mm.
hits like, oh no, I like I'm not there. I need 2 more minutes. And it's like I can calm down a screaming toddler because their socks aren't straight, but I can't calm down myself because I still have 5, 10 more things I need to do, but I need to be out of the house now.
Totally. That makes perfect sense. And I think there's other people on this call that are navigating that. So thanks for vocalizing it. We have a couple things later on in this deck that are going to be helpful for that. Hopefully, they'll give you some support. But again, it's all mindset, right? It's like, what are
Yeah.
you not surrendering to? What's the control that you need to have in order to make
And
sure
be
that
a
thing
nanny
happens?
being a nanny, I'm all about control. Even just
Oh, yeah.
verbalizing it, I feel the tension in my body and my heat of my body is rising right now. I'm going to start sweating. We're going to take the sweater off soon.
You're very connected to your body, and now I got to learn that today. So I'm really excited to see what you do with it throughout this time together. Beautiful. I'm sure you guys see my little guy. He's like, "Ah," like losing it. That's how I feel sometimes when I think about time. Um, Next thing is how much of that is based on society's idea of what you should be doing with your time. How much of like, oh my God, I get so overwhelmed. Da, 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 da. For me, my example was if there's so much on my plate, then you stack more, and then I'm like, fuck it, I'm out. Like all my kind version of me is gone. That's because of what society thinks. If I look at the list of things that I'm literally working on in this moment and something else comes up that's more important, if I learn to surrender, I can just say, I'm actually not attached to this being done. I'm attached to like what's the greatest for the higher good. So let me like divert over to here, where it's going to make me feel more aligned and more productive. And sometimes it's dropping what I'm doing to show up for like the cause, the bigger thing. But if society is like, oh, well, guess what? At 6 p.m., you want to close your laptop? Well, you're still not good enough. Let me just remind you that you're not good enough by showing you the 465 emails that you have and the to-do list you didn't get done because we're so focused on everything we didn't do versus the things we did do. So keeping in mind that when you have like, you're feeling crunched for time, like look at your list. I'm the queen of like when I'm ready to go out of town, like packing, and then I'm like, I have to do all these things before I leave. And then I add to my list, add to my list. I'm like, will this change my experience on my trip? No. Will this change my experience when I get home? Probably not. As long as like the dishes are done, I'm fine, truly. So just separating a little. I know, Katie. Okay, so time is a unit of measurement. Basically, it's like dollars, it's like math, it's like measuring how wide your desk is. It's literally a unit of measurement and it's a construct made up by humans. So when you're in the spiritual realm, time and space reality is like not the same. And I don't mean beginning life before life or after death. I mean like when you're connected, you're not so much on the 60-second means a minute rule. You're kind of in like a different space of navigating your relationship to time. Time's also a resource that can be used well or wasted. And it's the most valuable resource that exists because no one on this planet can buy more no matter how much money you have. And everyone's given the exact same amount of time of what they're given and no more, no less. And it's a gift. It can be given, received, or cherished, but it is the most important resource you have. So, just to call myself and everyone out, or other versions of us, how much of your limited resource are you sharing with motherfuckers you don't care about? People that you don't make you feel good. People that when you spend time with them, you walk away and you're like, ugh, but you still keep doing it. Maybe people that are dating and you're like, I know this like dude is not right, but I still keep spending time. Like that's your most valuable resource. It's okay if you're dating or spending time with a friend that's the wrong person, it makes you feel ick. But dear God, walk away from it learning that or learning the gift that put them in your life. Don't just be like, you're not worth it, I'm out. It's like, no, like, let me welcome you in so I can learn what you're teaching me and then be more intentional with my time so I can be in a space of joy more often. Let's talk about procrastination again. All of us are feeling very attacked already, I know. Using your time in a way that feels avoidant can be draining emotionally and mentally. You know, when you procrastinate on something all day and then it feels bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you're like, fuck, I just can't. You've given all your power away. It wears on our character and it deteriorates the trust we've built with ourselves. When we say, I know I need to do that, I know I'm committed to doing that, but I don't want to do it right now, but I'll do it later. Your inner self is like, really, bitch? Let me know when you're ready. I want you to step up, but like, let me know when you're ready. It's also a function of fear. And then here's a big question. This is deep, deep with me. Is it the fear of failure? Do you not do it because you're like, well, I don't want to fuck this up? Or do you not do it because if you do it well, you're going to be successful? Which is it? And that's a big question to consider. Could be both, could be different circumstantially. But the thing that we're like, ugh, ugh, ugh. You guys, I like so hate taxes. Everyone hates taxes, but I hate doing my taxes. And I procrastinate until my accountant is like, pound. She comes over and pounds my door down. Literally, she's like, bitch, I need these documents. And I'm like, hey, like, no, no, not now, not now, not now. And like, I realized uncovering some of it is that like, I was afraid to see if my business was profitable or not. And luckily I did it. And then I realized it was. And I was like, damn, you're afraid of your own potential. Like, okay, right. Okay. Boundaries. Here's a big one with time. A time management issue is an actual boundaries issue. If you don't manage your time well, it means you suck at saying no. And that's okay. Boundaries are tough because boundaries, like, oftentimes are interpreted as like cutting something off or a stop sign, but it's actually a guideline. This is what I'll let in my space right now. This is what I'll let in my space later. This is what I'll let in my space never. This is what I'll let in my space more frequently. But you have to believe you're like your own freaking Beyonce. Like, my time is valuable. Wherever I go, not in an entitled way, but in an intentional way. And even in a humble way, where you walk into to get your morning coffee, the line's out the door, and then you're like, my time's so valuable, I shouldn't be here. It's like, no, actually, it might be nice for you to humbly wait in line because that could be a moment where you utilize your time to listen to your breath and connect with yourself because your morning was busy. You're not being presented with like time delays in your life because it's like life's not happening to you, it's just happening. So those delays could be opportunities, right? It's not what you say yes to that determines your commitment and priorities, but it's actually what you say no to. You guys know this. The more you say no, the more space you have. And most of us, which we'll get into as well, are very uncomfortable with space. Not because it's scary, not because it's dense, not because we're free falling, but it's because we don't know what is in that space. We don't know what could come into that space. So we're unwilling to let go of control enough to see. So when we say no to things, we make space. When we say yes to things, we fill space. So are you saying yes to things to fill space just because you don't want the void? I'm telling you, top-notch human living is like get comfortable with uncertainty because that's the only thing that's certain is you're never going to know. So like all the issues with time too, those will start kind of navigating themselves. So time is a resource. We talked about this. I want to talk about value for value as well. So time is a value currency, just like money. My time teaching yoga therapy one-on-one with a client is worth X dollars, right? Not because an hour of my time is worth X dollars, because of the money, time, and energy I've invested in my degree to become that, and then the years of experience I've put into it. That makes up the value rate that I say this is what I charge as, like my cost. So it's not just my time in that moment. And so what I want to say about that is that like sometimes a value for value exchange is not just about that time frame. It's actually about something that you're investing in that's bigger. And it goes the same across the board, vice versa, where if we're overpaying for something, we don't feel good. If we're underpaying for something, we don't feel good. If you've ever like been gifted something that felt like a little too much, first of all, like check your worthiness because you probably deserve it. And it's being made up for in other ways, right? Energy has a way of making itself around. However, to be able to receive, and when you give, when things are kind of off. So really using your time as a resource gives you like energy management of valuing it more, of creating a little bit more value around it. So where are you spending your time in value for value places? Meaning, is your skill set at your job higher than what they're paying you and now you're ready for a promotion or a new company? Or are you getting overpaid for something you're not actually qualified for and you feel like shit when you show up and you feel like you don't know what you're doing, right? Or what do you receive in exchange for your time, and is it a fair energetic trade-off? I have a friend that I work with. I mean, she's one of my students, but I actually really look up to her. She's like a badass female entrepreneur. She's created, I think, like 3 companies and sold them already. And she's like the CEO of this like brand new meal prep company for kids. She's like crushes it. And I look up to her so much. And I'm like, hey, do you think like I could go over some stuff with you? I just had some like business questions. And she's like, yeah, of course, come over. And like, to me, she sees me as like a teacher energetically and spiritually. And I see her as a teacher, financially and business wise, and, as a badass entrepreneur. So it's like when I spend time with her, I don't need to hire her for her services and she doesn't necessarily hire me for mine. We just have this ability to have time together and it feels really nourishing. It feels really nourishing. I get a lot from the experience and so does she. So, and I've had relationships where I've shown up and had meals or had experiences where I'm like, I feel like I'm teaching them and this feels more like a student capacity. So like, let's talk about coaching. So there's just like a difference in how the exchanges happen. And we have to remember that the energy you put in by your presence, your attention, your awareness is very valuable and should be in an exchange that feels authentic and good. And that's why I'm super like, you know, adamant about when I do courses or classes or things like that, like I have certain exceptions that I make based on certain things, but like as far as the energy I put in, I always know that I'm going to give way more than I even like anticipated. So I always trust myself when I ask for what I need in response. Yeah, how do you feel about your experience with this person? What do you notice after you spend time in a certain place, right? Like if you don't jive with Disneyland, you're like germs everywhere, like don't go there. Don't spend your time there. You know, I had a recent experience too with my family where we were going to do sort of post holiday get together just to like kind of touch base. And there was so much energy about where we did it. And like everyone wanted to do it at my mom's house, but I'm like, my parents are divorced and like my dad's not super comfortable there. And like, can we just find a neutral territory? And when we did, it changed the vibration of our time together. So I'm like, cool. Like, how do I create this value? Like, I want value in my life. I want to feel full. I want to feel nourished. And the ways that I can do that is like, how do I invest my energy and my time? Perception of time. I love this one. Do you think it's possible to stretch time? So, for example, this will get fun. When you're making love, you have no idea how many minutes you've been doing it. Unless unless you do and it's done quick, but when you're making love, you're present. And then when you're like standing in line and you're late, you're like, this minute feels like an hour, blah, 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 right? So our perception of how we're interacting with that moment it's actually possible to track it. And I sometimes do this when I've like, oh, I have a meditation in 10 minutes and I need to like brush my teeth and set my space. I'm like, okay, I'm going to stretch time right now. So like when I move about my space, I'm really intentional. I do the specific things that create the container and nothing else. So I laser vision into the things I need. And when I look at my clock, it's like, oh, it's only been 2 minutes and now I'm ready. So it's like stretching time, being aware of your relationship to time. I love this. You guys are going to love it. Shifting time. Ancient yogis once said that every single person is born with a specific amount of breaths they'll breathe during this lifetime. So mine could be 17,842 and yours could be 44,722. If you breathe slower, does it mean you last longer? Meaning if my breath is and I'm in fight or flight all the time, I've used up all my breaths. But if I spend more time in my center, I have a friend, he's a colleague, he's an amazing breathwork teacher. He left me a voice note the other day and half of it was him breathing. Literally, the voice note sounded like this. I'm in the desert right now and I'm really grateful to hear from you. And I'm like, I can literally feel his energy because my voice note was in LA in traffic and I'm like, hey, how you doing? I want to see you, like blah, blah, blah. So it's like he has this ability to like calm my energy just through a voice note and vice versa, we have that kind of space. So Try to make your breath longer. Try to slow down more. You're going to love and appreciate life so much more. Perception of time also includes in time and through time. This is an NLP concept, neuro-linguistic programming concept. If you are in time, you are right here, right now. You're looking in front of you. The future is there. You're looking behind you. The past is there. When you're in time, you're present. When you're right here, right now, you're able to access the way that it feels. When you're present, you're creative. You're working on a project. You're in flow. This is like happening. I'm right now. And like, I'm not looking at any time. I have no idea. I'm just here. Okay. Meditation, right? Ideally. Through time is when I can look in front of me and I can see my whole calendar of my day. So I say, right now I might be in this moment, but I see what I had to do earlier and I see what I'm doing later. So let me be mindful of how I spend this day. And oh, I know I have 10 minutes. I'm going to make a smoothie so that I get out on time. That's like zooming out from your timeline and logistically seeing it like the whole day. When we do inner child work, timeline therapy work, we're zooming out. So for more details on this, if you're in time, your present moment, you're executing, you can look at details because you're really taking your time to say, let me fine tune and see everything. I'm going to prioritize. I'm going to take care of tasks. It allows for concentration, one point of focus, the now self. Right now, I want to feel good, so I'm going to go get a smoothie, and that's what sounds good to me. Through time, projecting and receiving the past, present, future at the same time, meaning you did this yesterday, and I remember when you did da 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 da, and maybe you're going to do it again in the future, so I'm going to be aware of everything and take in the whole picture. It's good for planning, prepping, organizing. I'm going on vacation in March, so I have to make sure I get enough PTO now, right? Encourages reflection and measurement, meaning I can look back and see how far I've come. And then future self, meaning, damn, I'm going to meal prep so I hook myself up this week. Or I'm going to meditate now because I know the future self will appreciate it even if I don't feel the effects of it in this moment, right? So being able to toggle between the two, you need both. When you're making love, you're in time. When you're planning your next year's vacation, you're through time. You got to be able to go between the two to give yourself the concept of interacting fully. I'm already at 30 minutes, you guys, but I have more, so I'm just going to keep going for a little bit. If that's cool, if you got to go, I get it. Investment. Talking about scarcity mindset here and how it affects your time management. If you're someone who, when you look at your bank account, when you look at like food, when you look at resources, when you look at your friendships, it's always like not enough, not enough. Usually time will feel that way as well. So how does your scarcity clenching map across into the way you perceive time? It's the same thing with changing time, shrinking, and adjusting. It's the same thing. Can I look at this and step out of my mindset and just say, let me stretch time right now instead of shrink it? Because when it's like not enough time and then you're like, oh my God, how is it already 4 o'clock? Oh, I'm so late. That energy perpetuates. So what's it worth? $30 for a fancy avocado toast or a fancy latte and avocado toast. Yeah, we're down. For a yoga class, nah, not for an hour. $100 healthy groceries, no way. That's expensive. Dinner and drinks, what a deal. $1,500 for a music festival, like yes, let's do some Molly. A wellness retreat, can I get a discount? Right? Like we don't want to spend money on the things that we don't see value in because like our return on investment is long term. It's not right now in the moment. So you're probably having issues with time anyway, because like your perception of what's valuable is probably a little skewed if this is kind of how you've been living your life, and no shame around it because we all do this a lot of times. I'm going to leave this one for you guys to write, and I'm just going to tell it to you now, to write down the things you know you're wasting your time on. Do that after this call. All the things, like make a list. So let's go through our tools real quick. The first one I'm offering you is curiosity. How comfortable are you with the space that's kind of lingering between when you don't have anything to do, or at least your next thing is not for a little while? Can you just sit in the space and not fill it? When you reach for your phone, are you aimlessly scrolling and opening apps on autopilot? It can be really helpful to delete the app on your phone even for a day and look how many times you reach to tap it and you're not even going for anything. Like that's a good practice. Why are you procrastinating on doing the one thing you know will be healthy and helpful for your future self? Right? And what can you prioritize that has a return of feeling good and then acting, doing, producing from the place of feeling good? Because a lot of times when we procrastinate or we're pushing away resistance is serious. Feeling good lets things become lighter, right? So like, let me just put my jammies on and tackle this thing. Let me vacuum the floor. Like, just do it. Practical logistics for you, and you guys are going to get this deck too. I'm going to upload it onto Sutra for you. Use a timing cube, which you can get them on Amazon. They're literally like cubes, and then you just flip the box and it'll time for 5 minutes. Flip it 15, flip it 30, right? Use a timing cube or time block. Like from this time to this time, I'm only going to do this. And then create a container. Containment is really important, meaning for this section, it's just this. I'm not allowing anything else in the containment of my space. And once this is done, I can let myself run Vata, run airy, go free, and just take off and do whatever I want to do. Time your most annoying tasks to see how quick they are, to measure if your resistance is energetic versus real, right? Like I love timing myself making the bed and doing the dishes because it happens really fast and I'm like, damn, I'm ridiculous. Take breaks when things feel rigorous. Go on walks, step away, and come back, right? Unblocking feelings by just like creating a space with the stimulation. Identify your most productive windows and put the most important work in that time. So based on your body constitution and your Ayurvedic dosha, there's also some Chinese medicine diagrams that can help you with this, but what time of day for your personal makeup are you like cranking? For me, it's my 10 to 2 window. If it's 3, I'm like not like get me off the computer. I can't handle it. And it's like pulling teeth. So I'm not going to put myself through that and then want to be productive and efficient. I'm just going to kind of waste and spiral. So I block that time. I'm like, I know this is my time, and I just get in my wheelhouse during that time. The next one is to do research on resources that can make your tasks more organized and time efficient. So if you have something, which it'll be the next thing we talk about, if you have something on a list that you like, oh, here's what I spent all my time on, and you have something that you're like, I could literally make this more streamlined, like figure out how to do that because it'll be worth it down the line. Make a list of what you spend your time doing, like morning to night. Put a percentage value of how much of your energy is consumed by those things. And then try to like pull off lower yield items, things that are like less relevant. And that practice, by the way, is an energetic practice of surrender. That's all it is, saying like, I'm willing to like give this up. Because what weight am I putting on being attached to this? Like, does this really matter? And then at the end of the night or day, recap what you're going to do the next day. I always look at my calendar the day before. I'm like, what do I have going on? What do I need to prepare for? And I get myself just in tune with that, because when you know, you can relax. It's when you don't know what's coming the next day that you're anticipating being like, oh shit. Yeah. Try tackling your hardest tasks first, like just freaking muscle up and get brave, because sometimes once that's out of the way, all the other things just happen. And then create an agenda for your meetings, meaning when you sit down with, and I mean professional sense, like when you're with friends, like have fun, create a container, but agenda for your meetings, like work meetings. So you're not just sitting there kind of like, why am I still here? Like be efficient. Yes, Ali, spending time on your phone, you can see the percentage. I know mine tells me every week, and I'm like, there's no way I spend that much time on my phone every day. Oh God. Okay, sweet. I got us done in less than 5 minutes over. Perfect. Thank you guys so much. If you'd like to hang out for a moment, I'm down to open the space. If any of you have anything that you're excited to incorporate, want to share, reflection, we'll have time for one person if you're down.
Well, I don't want to take up the reflection space, but I just want to clarify.
Take it.
You can see the breakdown of where you spend your time by app. So like if you spend 8 hours a day on your phone, you can see the percentage of the time you spend on Instagram, maybe playing a game, maybe email, maybe you're being productive, you know? But
Yeah.
especially for people who feel like they spend too much time on Instagram, it can be a little alarming to realize how much time you really do, or whatever your chosen social media platform. So that
Oh,
I've
data.
been paying more attention to ever since the pandemic, obviously, because my screen time went up like so much during the pandemic, and seeing that breakdown kind of helped me come back out of that. Use Instagram less, aimlessly scroll less. I am not one to tout time management skills, but being able to visualize that, like having those stats right in front of me, I think it's good. It's helpful if you want to
Totally.
face yourself. If you want to face yourself and know the truth.
Any of this is helpful if you're willing to face yourself.
Yeah. If not, if you want to like ignore how you're spending your time on your phone, definitely don't look at that, you know?
Of course, yeah.
My boyfriend probably wouldn't want to look at that.
Hopefully no one's here if they don't want to look at their shit, but hey, you
Yeah.
never know. All right, you beautiful humans. Thank you guys so much for joining me. And if you have any questions or feedback, just let me know, and I'm happy to be a resource. Otherwise, I'll see you guys soon. If you're in LA, make sure you catch us at Awake on Sunday at 9 a.m. in Santa Monica for a live class. Otherwise, I'll see you soon. Bye.